Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah. Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah.
Ina alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to another session of our Aqidah class, and we are focusing in on allegiance in Islam. And allegiance in Islam entails having allegiance to Allah, to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to the believers, no matter where they are on the earth, no matter what their race is, no matter what their color is, no matter what country they come from. Okay, it's all about having allegiance to them based on their faith and practice. We talked about how some Muslims are more deserving of our allegiance than others. Why is that so? Who can explain how it is that some Muslims are more deserving of our allegiance than others? Or in other words, what is it that determines how much allegiance you show to a Muslim? Can anyone answer that question? You all should know the answer. You're all Muslims. And this is part of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. What is it that determines how our allegiance should be towards one another? We base it on what? We base it on what? Sister, who's here? Sister Marianne, what do we base it on? I know I'm always calling on you, Marianne, but you usually get the answers right. That's why I'm trying to move on. Marianne, what determines how close we should be to another Muslim? What do we base that on, our closeness to one another on, Sister Marianne? Marianne usually has the answer. Are you in here, Marianne, or are you away from the computer? Zarina, what determines what we base our closeness with one another on? What do our closeness with other Muslims is determined by what? Go ahead, Sister Ifti.
Oh, I was going to answer. You called me, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hear your answer.
I was going to say that when you know their Aqidah and their character, righteousness, you don't want to be with someone around people or associating with people who are just openly, disobeying the law or their righteous character. That's what we can see.
Okay, Sister Ifti, what would you say?
I was going to say their actions, their deeds. Like, how do I know who to be a friend with or who to be close to? I have to judge them by their actions.
Exactly. Basically, their consciousness of Allah and their fear of his punishment, or in other words, their actions, their deeds. If a Muslim is committing sins openly, that's somebody that you don't want to be with. Because if Allah decides to send his punishment down on that person, you sitting there with them, guess what? You're going to get it too. You want to try to surround yourself with righteous, practicing other Muslims. So our allegiance to one another is determined by our consciousness of Allah. We owe allegiance to all Muslims. Even if a sister is not practicing their religion, she doesn't pray, she doesn't wear hijab, but she's a Muslim, I am going to support her. I am going to help her to the best of my ability. But whenever I support her or help her, I'm going to also remind her to fear Allah. But guess what? If she needs help and another sister who is practicing the religion needs help, which one do I help? The one who it is practicing. She's going to come first. Does everybody understand that? So I got 2 Muslim women coming to me asking for assistance to help pay their rent. One sister does not wear hijab. The other sister does. I'm going to give, and I can only help one. I'm going to give that help to that one that's wearing that hijab because she's more deserving of my help than the other one is. Okay. And what about this? Could I split the money in half? What about this, guys? I got $100 and two sisters need help. Both of them need help paying their rent. Can I split that $100 and give $50 to the one that ain't practicing and $50 to the one that is? What do you think about that? Could I do that? What do y'all think? What do you think, Medina? Zarina, go ahead.
For me, I wouldn't do 50-50. I would still give more help to the person who I know is really striving and practicing. And maybe my intention might be to help the other Muslim who isn't doing as well, but maybe that'd be encouragement for her to do better. That's just how I think. I wouldn't give 50-50 though.
You could though, if you wanted to, you could. Yes, because this is a question that somebody asked. What if I got two Muslims who need help? One is practicing and one isn't, but they both need help. Can I split it? Yeah, you could. You could do that too.
Okay.
You could do that too. But the one who's most deserving is the one that is practicing. Just like even with Allah says we're not the same. Even Allah preferred some of the prophets over others. He preferred the prophets who were messengers over the ones who were not messengers. Okay, he prefers some of us over others. So we're not all the same. I mean, yes, I could split it, and that's probably what I would do. I would split it to help both of them, especially in this day and age. But which one is most deserving? If I'm going to help the one that doesn't practice, I'm going to give her some money, and I'm going to tell her, you better pull it together, girlfriend. You better start calling upon Allah for help. Okay? So that's how allegiance works. And for those of us who understands the concept of allegiance, this is how we grow into becoming allies of Allah, because we fulfill our obligations to Allah. And by fulfilling our obligations to Allah, that brings us under Allah's closeness, Allah's protection. And then we continue by doing the voluntary deeds until Allah loves us. And if Allah loves you, he has promised he will never, ever, ever allow the hellfire to touch anyone that he loves. Yesterday, I did the series on the resurrection, and I got a lot of emails and back comments yesterday and today. We talked about the gathering, and a lot of you were saying how terrifying it was, how you didn't know that all that was going to happen on the day of judgment, and how scary it is. Okay, well, good. I'm glad you're scared. Okay, that hopefully that will encourage you to get close to Allah in this world before you die, to end up earning his love, so you don't have to be one of those people that we're going to talk about this weekend who's going to be dragged to that place of judging and punished. Okay? So, all these classes should inspire and encourage you to do the right thing, to fulfill your obligations to Allah, to put those hijabs on, pray those prayers, enjoin the good, forbid the evil, as Allah commands us to do. And we talked yesterday about how Allah helps us. Once we reach the level of being an ally of Allah, we're under Allah's protection, yes. And he will help us. He will help us to carry out our affairs. Okay? And we talked about how sometimes Allah will even send miracles to help his allies, to remind his allies, to protect his allies. And we also spoke yesterday about how Shaitan has his allies too. He tries to help his allies too, but he doesn't use miracles, he uses trickery. What are some of the types of trickery that Shaitan uses to dupe his allies into thinking that they have the support of Allah? Can anyone remember? What are some of the tactics that Shaitan uses to dupe people into thinking that they're being inspired by Allah when it's really by Shaitan? Come on, guys, wake up. Every Muslim should know these answers. I'm not asking you nothing that's complicated. It's all stuff that you would probably be asked in that grave. Y'all should know this stuff. Sister, let me start at the bottom again. Shakura. Excuse me. Go ahead.
He acts like he'll try and convince people that he knows things that no one else could possibly know. And it's not that he has this knowledge, it's just that Shaitan, Iblis, all those jinn, Shaitans, they are eavesdropping on the angels' conversations. And then Allah has to send some meteor to blast them out the doggone sky because they mind in business that they should not be. But that's one way. That's how these, like, what do they call them? Fortune tellers and stuff like that, how they're getting their information.
Exactly, guys. She gave one of the #1 ways in which Shaitan uses trickery. He'll call himself, him and his allies will share knowledge of the unseen with you. If you guys look on social media, a lot of these chat rooms, especially that Clubhouse program, oh my God, there's so many Muslims, most of them are Arabs, I hate to admit it. They're sitting up there in that Clubhouse doing matchmaking. They can guarantee you that they can hook you up with the perfect wife, the perfect husband, fill out this form, answer these questions, and you got the perfect mate. These people are nothing but allies of Shaitan. How can they give you a perfect anything when perfection belongs to Allah, not to us anyway? And so they'll dupe you and make you think that they have knowledge of the unseen, knowledge of things that they have no knowledge of. They don't know nothing about a relationship. Most of them that's doing it ain't even got a successful relationship of their own. Or they're miserable, unhappy with their own lives. They can't even tell you what's going to happen with them tomorrow. They don't even know if they're going to if they can hold on to their husband or wife. Maybe I'll go and take one of their husbands. You never know. But these people, they're allied. They're duped by Shaitan into thinking that they have knowledge of the unseen. And they think this knowledge comes from Allah. Remember, if anybody comes to you telling you that they're giving you knowledge of the unseen, that's how you know it ain't coming from Allah, because Allah doesn't share knowledge of the unseen with anyone except the prophets, and there will be no other prophets after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Good job, Shakura. Okay, Sister Medina, what's another way in which Shaitan uses deception to trick his allies?
Assalamu alaikum. I was going alongside that. I was going to say Shaitan can appear in people's dreams.
That's another way. In fact, that's probably the #2 way. Okay, how many of you see a ghost in your dreams? Dead relatives come back to you. You know, your dead grandmother, your dead father talking to you, telling you that he's proud of you. You know, this is one of the biggest ways that Shaitan dupes us, through our dreams. And you know, we talked about how sometimes when a person goes to sleep, Allah does take the soul. And it's a fact, the souls do travel up to the heavens. And if Allah wants, he may let you talk to your dead mother who's flying around the throne of Allah. But if it's somebody that was a kafir, that's how you know that ain't Allah. Because kafirs go to hell. Kafirs ain't going to be in paradise. If your grandmother was not even Muslim, Do you think that Allah would have your soul meet with her and talk to her? She's in hell, being punished. The prophet never met with his father and his mother. He said, my father, my mother are in hell. They're in hell and hell and hell forever. They were kafir. So that's how you can read through that crap. And I get a lot of Muslims that send me emails saying, oh, I saw my dead mother. And I'm like, oh, well, how was your mother a good Muslim? Oh, no, she was Christian, but she was a good lady. Oh, that is shaitan. That's one of the number one ways you do. Some kafir coming to you who's dead, telling you that they proud of you. That ain't a law. Okay. Sister Fatima Valère said also, shaitan will take the form of someone to lead you astray. That happens a lot too. Remember, the jinn can take on the appearance of human beings. Maybe there's some man that you met in college. You know, he's duped you into drinking alcohol. Then one day you go to school and he's no longer there. Don't nobody know what happened to this brother. He just disappeared off the face of the earth. It was a denizen of shaitan, took on the appearance of a human being to seduce you, to commit sin. We talked about the jinn. We talked about how this happens a lot. Sometimes a jinn will take on the appearance of a beautiful woman and go to a man, and a man has sex with her, relationship with her, and then the woman just disappears. That was a jinn. Or a woman has an affair with some man. She just meets randomly. Then one day he just disappears. Come to find out he never existed. The jinn do that. Shaitan dupes people that way. Good job, Fatima. How else? What's another way that shaitan uses trickery with his allies? Mayleon, go ahead.
I was gonna say he deceives and dupes his allies by telling them in order to get closer to Allah, you have to like indulge in sinful behaviors or actions such as like twirling around or blasting music, floating in the air, or banging to just music, honestly.
Exactly. Music. Anytime something happens and it's musical instruments involved, that should tell you that ain't a law. That's shaitan. Because music calls down the jinn. The devils descend upon music. They descend upon filth. They descend whenever they see people indulging in sin. So if it's music involved, this ain't no miracle from Allah. This is all shaitan. Okay, Sister Jamila, what's another one?
I was thinking about being aware of charismatic speakers, because they could speak about Allah and don't even say anything about Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, of what he's taught us and ways and actions. So you have to be very careful about who you listen at.
That's the number 3 way he dupes us, with the tongue. You know, charisma. Shaitan has a lot of charisma, okay? And we have to be careful of these speakers. Like the prophet said, there are some people who can move their tongue like a cow does a cud. They can use words. They have beautiful voices, beautiful diction, and they can express themselves beautifully. But there's really a magic that they're using. They're intoxicating you with their voices, intoxicating you with their words, telling you things that contradict what Allah says. And so we have to be careful even when we're listening to people speak about Islam. We have to make sure that whatever they're talking about, they're relating it back to the Quran, back to the authentic hadith. That they're not sitting there just using all these beautiful words and making us feel good with their words and their voices. And in reality, they're just, intoxicating us and duping us, blinding us. That happens at a lot of these conferences y'all go to. Y'all better beware of these Muslim conferences, especially the ones held here in America. because most of them conferences are filled with nothing but innovators and they talk a whole bunch of crap. Okay? Y'all got to be very careful of these speakers that y'all listening to today. How can you tell me about Islam and you trimming your beard? Here's a man that don't even grow his beard. He's shaving his beard every 30 days, trimming his beard every day. Here's a woman that's not dressed properly. She has on a pair of pants and a top. You can see her shape. Okay, how can she tell me anything about Islam when she is not even obeying a law with covering her body or her eyebrows are arched? That's what gets me. These women who curse themselves by arching their eyebrows like these men curse themselves shaving their beards. That's what a lot of these conferences y'all go to are filled with. And that mixing of the sexes like they do. Women standing up in a crowd of men talking and women and men sitting together and intermingling. I mean, come on, guys. Y'all got to wake up. Yes, Sister Zarina, what's another way in which he dupes us? Uses
Yeah, this is relating to Shaitan and his followers' charisma. They will flatter you. And they also are very good at giving perks and support and the same type of characteristics of having allegiance that we have as an ummah. They will have that too. And they will always seem like they have your back. And then eventually they will abandon you. So that's
exactly. They'll leave you hanging. They'll eventually leave you hanging because they have a close knit tie with each other too, but they end up breaking it up. You know, subhanAllah. So these are a lot of the different ways. You have to excuse me, I'm still sick. I don't know what this virus is, but it's still hanging on over a month and it's still going into the second month and it's still here. Okay, but yeah, so we have to be very, very careful, guys, to not be tricked by Shaitan. And so that's what we spoke about yesterday. And that's also how you can tell if a miracle is coming from Allah or a miracle is coming from Shaitan. Allah is not going to use anything haram. Allah is not going to give you knowledge of the unseen or any of that stuff. You know, Shaitan uses the haram to dupe you. Okay, and he tries to use the unseen as a way of getting you, and he plays on you when you sleep. Okay, and all of that. I had a person call me today about a dream she had. She was telling me that she slept and her soul, she said, I know the soul can travel. She said, the hadiths are clear on that. She said, and she had a dream about someone that had died who was a Muslim. And she said, Sister Layla, I sat talking to that person for a long time. And it was so real. I felt like I was actually there and we were actually talking. And then she said, at the end, I said, okay, well, I get to see you again. Well, we get to talk like this again. And she said, I'll always make dua for you. She said, the person I dreamed about, I said, I will always pray for you and I'll always want the best for you. And inshallah, we'll meet again. So she said, Sister Layla, was that so-and-so? Could that have been my friend? I told her, yes, it possibly could have been because the person didn't use deception. She didn't say that I'll always be there. She said, hopefully, inshallah, we'll meet again. You know, I'll always make dua for you. I'll always pray for you. That sounds like something that a person who's flying around the throne of Allah would say. Because those people who are flying around the throne of Allah, they wait for the day to be reunited with their families. And of course, they're Muslim, of course. So yes, they're praying for us. The people, our relatives who are Muslim are praying and wanting, hoping the best for us. So I told her Allah knows best. But yes, your soul could have been sitting with her. She said, we were just sitting and talking. She was asking me about things and I was telling her about things. And then she said, okay, I have to go. And I said, and I asked her, will I ever see you again? She said, Allah knows best. She said, but know that I'm always praying for you and always rooting for you, always wanting the best for you. She said, could that have been her? It could have been. Allah knows best. I ain't Allah. But that sounds very good. But now if it was one of them dreams where I'm going to give you knowledge of the future, I'm proud of you, and you getting ready to get married, you going to meet a man with $1 million who's going to rock your world. Now that's shaitan, because Allah ain't sharing that type of knowledge with nobody. Okay? You ain't no prophetess. All right. Okay, so, that was an example of that. So today, let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen. By the way, for those of you, this is for the people on Facebook who asked me. This is off the topic, y'all got to excuse me, but Teen Wolf, the movie, is playing on Paramount. People on Facebook know who I'm talking to. I didn't know it came out a couple days ago, but it's streaming live on Paramount. Teen Wolf, the movie. I'll be checking it out tonight. Okay. You will too, brother. That's right. You didn't know? Yeah, I just found out. Teen Wolf, the movie, is on Paramount Plus. Okay. If you got Paramount Plus, check it out tonight, because inshallah, if I ain't too sick, I will. Yeah. Okay, let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen for today's lecture. That brother's into paranormal like I am, and he's a writer like me. My next book, when I finish this novel, inshallah, my next novel is going to be about vampires and werewolves too. But right now I'm trying to finish the one I got. He likes vampire and werewolves like I do. Okay. This is session 15. Today, we're going to speak a little bit more in detail about how Shaitan helps his allies. Did I do this yesterday? No. This is not from yesterday, right? Hold on, guys. No, it's not. Because y'all know I've been sick. Okay, the people of innovation and the people of shirk, oftentimes they'll go to a grave and they experience phenomena that they think are miracles, when in reality is from the devils. You got to be careful at the graves. Remember, we talked about when I did the series on the jinn. The jinn live in the graveyards. They really do. So that's why you will hear some people say they went to a graveyard at night and they saw a ghost. Ghosts are jinn. The jinn can take on the appearance of a dead person and they try to scare us. Remember, I did the series on how the jinn love to scare people. The evil jinn is all just like Casper the ghost. They want to scare you. So if you're at a graveyard and you see a premonition or something, that's really a jinn. They take on a picture of those dead people and make you think that he's a soldier coming from the Confederate Army. That stuff is real. Those are ghosts. And we have to be careful with that. Okay. And the innovators, there's some people that belong to Sufi groups. They experience a lot of shirk and a lot of phenomena at the tombs that they visit. They'll go to their dead sheikhs and they think that it's really Allah, but in reality it's Shaitan. For example, they may put a pair of pants on a grave and then they come back and find that the pants have been tied in a knot. A jinn tied the pants in a knot to make you think, that it's something from Allah. Or they may bring someone who is possessed to a grave and see the jinn who has afflicted him leave him. The devil do this type of stuff, guys, just to lead us astray. So you have to really be careful of those graves. And this is why I tell you guys, you see a lot of innovation in the Muslim lands. You see people taking food to the grave, talking to dead people. Allah says in the Quran, the dead cannot hear you. You cannot make the dead hear you. So what are you doing at the graves talking to dead people? They're in a different world. They don't hear you. Like I said, when you sleep at night, Allah may take your soul and allow your soul to talk to the soul of a righteous relative who's flying around his throne. But he ain't gonna sit there and hear you because you sitting there at the graveyard. Allah takes the soul when we sleep, and he brings it up to him, okay, to the heavens. Ain't nobody up in the heavens coming down here to earth, because there's a barrier between this world and the next. So what are you sitting at the graveyard talking to somebody for? And guess what? The jinn live there. When they see a Muslim that's stupid, that's when the jinn say, uh-oh, y'all, party over here. Ain't that person supposed to be a Muslim? Don't they know better? Let's scare them. Okay, let's take on the appearance of dead people. Let's be a marching soldier. Whoop, 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 whoop. They do that. They will do stuff just to, to make you believe, that it's real, because they see how stupid you are. So you put a pair of pants up, they're going to come back and tie it in knots. You put food down there, they'll go and eat it and then leave some there. They do that if they see that you're stupid enough to believe in that stuff. Also, sometimes if Ayat Kursi is read at the grave with true belief and sincere intentions, none of these things will happen, because remember, the jinn, as we talked about when I did my series, they're weak. They're weaker in their iman than we are. When they hear the words of Allah, they run away. So if you are at a grave, let's say that you're not committing no shirk, but you go to a grave to make dua for the Muslims there, and you start seeing little crazy stuff happening like ghosts and all that, just recite Ayat Kursi or say Allahu Akbar, and you will see they'll run away. Because they run away whenever they hear the name of Allah, the evil jinn do. Okay? But for those Muslims stupid enough to do this innovation and shirk stuff, you don't know telling what they'll see. Sometimes, for those innovators, they will see a grave split open and somebody climb out of it. A dead body comes out the grave and they think, oh my God, that man's resurrected, when it's really just a devil. So a lot of these so-called miracles, which are really deceptions that Shaitan uses on those who are stupid and sick, they happen at the grave. That's why be careful going there. And this is why, if you're a woman or a man, because we got weak men too, who can't control yourself, you got to talk to the dead and all that, stay home. Because you don't have to go to a grave to make dua for a Muslim. You can make dua from home or wherever you are. I make dua for my dead relatives every day, right here at home, not at no grave, because I ain't got time for no jinn. I done did too many expulsions and jinn possessions, and I don't want to. I worked 36 years with jinn. I don't want to deal with them no more. And I seem to attract them when I go to places like that. So I don't even go to the graveyard. I stay home. I got enough demons to deal with on this website sometimes. Okay, but subhanallah, that's why if you're too weak, stay home, because the jinn live there. And they sit around waiting on stupid people who are weak in their mind to come and do shirk so they can pounce on you. Also, the same with caves. There's a lot of Muslims out there who like to go and isolate themselves in caves. By the way, this is an innovation. And you ask them, why are they doing it? Oh, because the prophet did it. No, he used to go and seek and isolate in a cave before he became a prophet. After he became a prophet, he did itikaf at the masjid. He didn't do it in a cave anymore. The cave is where the jinn live. Once again, they live in graveyards. They live in caves. So you want to go into a cave thinking you're going to get close to Allah. Oh, you're going to get close, all right, but not to Allah. You're in the jinn territory. You're going to get some big jinn that's going to be answering you. Because the jinn go to the caves. They also live in mountains. I'm sure you guys have heard people talk about Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the abominable snowman. These things exist. These people really do see Bigfoot. They're nothing but jinn. They take on the appearance of a wild animal to scare you away because you're in their territory. Maybe they have children in that cave, and here you done came in there trying to isolate yourself in a cave when you should be at the mosque. So they'll take on the appearance of a big hairy man and scare you to protect their children. That's their territory, caves are. And you'll hear a lot of innovators, Sufis, because they do this. They go into the caves and they say that all type of miracles happen. It ain't no miracle, it's shaitan. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. And some men from among the humans used to seek refuge in the men from among the jinn. And so the jinn increased the humans in their burden of fear. And these humans sank deeper and deeper into shirk. That's right there in the Quran. Allah is telling you, whenever you go where the jinn live, they will take on the appearance of a man or a hairy animal and make you cause you to do more shirk because you're on their turf. Allah says, stay away from the mountains, stay away from the caves, stay away from the deserts, stay away from the woods, the forests, stay away from graves. And when you go through those areas, mention the name of Allah so you'll be protected from any jinn and they'll move out your way so you don't hurt their children. So there's a lot of ignorant Muslims out there, guys, that belong to a lot of these innovative groups that do this crazy stuff. In fact, one of the brothers here on Facebook sent me a text message yesterday, as a matter of fact, one of the imams, the imam in Alabama. He said that he remembers when one day a couple of brothers from his mosque, he'd asked him, hey, let's go camping in the cave. I got in there because he lives in Alabama. He said, and they wanted to drive up to the mountains. And oh, they got some beautiful caves we can camp out in and, and just spend the weekend in a cave. He said, not me. He said, he had to tell those brothers, y'all going where the jinn are. I ain't gonna camp out with no jinns. He said, but if y'all want to hang out, the mosque is open. Subhanallah. And the imam told him right. So there's a lot of Muslims that like to do that, going out and hanging out in the caves. It ain't happening. Okay, Sister Latifa, I love the mountains. I got cabins I rent in the mountains, but I ain't inside no cave in no mountain. I'm living up top at the mountains, but I'm living where the humans are. Not where no jinn are. We ain't going in here. We ain't even going on no tour. Because I tell you, I attract them things. Okay? Also, again, some of the jinn appear in the form of a man covered with hair or like a goat. That's Sasquatch. That's Bigfoot. That's the abominable snowman. Remember, guys, there's a hadith where the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said on every mountain of the ones mentioned earlier are the 40 Abdal. The 40 Abdal, they are those who believe to be the Abdal. The Abdal are the jinn. They live on those mountains. That's the Sasquatch. That's the abominable snowman. Okay? So when you hear people talk about how they go skiing and they see the abominable snowman, they're not making that stuff up. Or they're camping and they see the Sasquatch, Bigfoot. They even see them with babies. Those are jinn. And they will materialize. They materialize and take those scary forms because they protecting their families. They're not the bad jinn necessarily. Some of them can be the good jinn, but you about to step on their babies. So they will scare you away and hold their babies. Get away from us because you're in our territory. Okay? And of course, when you see them appearances, you run. So they got to do what they got to do to protect their own too. Some of them are evil, but not all of them. A lot of them are just good jinn minding their business. But you on their turf. They got to get you away from theirs. Okay? Also, so when we talk about this type of stuff, about miracles and miraculous events, like you guys hear me speaking now, people take different views on this, like some of y'all are taking. Some people, like some of you, refuse to admit that the jinn do exist. They refuse to admit that Bigfoot and Sasquatch is true. Some of y'all listening to me think Layla's crazy, even though I've given you the hadiths, even though I've given you the proof that these things exist. Some of y'all think that no, they only exist in the time of the prophets. Okay? And then there's others that believe anyone who possesses some ability to perform a miraculous feat is an ally of Allah. Those are the Sufis, a lot of them. They think anybody that appears to do something that's miraculous is an ally of Allah, because that man can pretend that he's moving the cancer from your body. He's an ally of Allah. You know how you've seen them do that, the Christians? Well, we got Muslims that do that too. They'll come over you and say they're going to do ruqyah. I'm going to get rid of this cancer. Ooh, 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 ooh. And they start reciting Quran over your body. I'm going to get it out. Ooh, 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 ooh. Dig their hand and ooh, pull out some meat, some flesh. Oh, yeah, we got Muslims doing that same stuff Christians do and say, nah, he's healed. We took the cancer out. Oh, we're allies of Allah. You ain't took out nothing. You put some meat in your hand, some liver, and you're probably going to go home and cook it with your nasty self, okay, and eat it. You know, that stuff happens. You know, Muslims, we got Muslims that imitate the Christians and do all kind of stupid stuff today. And then they expect you to pay them $200. I know one brother said that some imam told him, I could come and get your cancer out of you if you pay me $1,000. I said, what is he? Did he have a big turban on and a long beard? He said he had a big turban on and a short beard. I said, I bet you he was a Sufi. He was going to put some meat in his hand and come and recite Quran over you, do ruqyah, and dig his hand up under the sheet and say, whoa, I pulled the cancer out. That's all he was going to do. And you pay him $1,000 and he go to the next person. Yeah, we got Muslims that do this crazy stuff. Okay? And we got people stupid to think that because it look like they doing that stuff, that they're allies of Allah. We have to remember Allah says, in the interpretation, the meaning, oh, you who believe, do not take the Jews and the Christians as allies. They are allies of each other. And whoever amongst you turns his loyalty towards them is surely one of them. So we have to be careful of this, guys, you know, falling into the traps like the Christians and Jews did, you know, taking stupid people, you know, as allies of Allah because they're using trickery, you know, on you. Okay. Again, Allah, if he was going to perform a true miracle, it's a miracle. It happens. And you have no explanation. It just happened. You walking, you slip, and you fall, and all of a sudden something pulls you back up. You don't touch the ground. Woo! That's a miracle. That was a law. Okay, no trickery involved, nobody around to catch you. That was a law. But these other people with the trickery that Shaitan and his allies use, there's always a way to defunk them, to prove them to be fake. Like I just did with the Sufi. You know, he'll take some liver, put it in his hand and recite Quran and make you think he pulling out your cancer. Remember, guys, Allah tells us in the Quran, in the interpretation, the meaning, shall I not tell you upon whom the devils descend? They descend upon the sinners, the forging sinners. When people are doing haram things, beating tambourines, beating drums, chanting Allah, 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 and then blowing over your body, reciting Quran to drums, and you think a miracle's happening, that ain't from Allah. That's Shaitan. And by the way, these people that say they can remove your cancer, they always got drums. They have their them drums and stuff they play, and they're chanting, you know, and oh, I took the cancer out. Come on, Allah doesn't operate that way. Okay. Again, whistling and musical instruments are the work of Shaitan. Allah says in the Quran, in the interpretation and meaning, their prayers at the Kaaba were nothing but whistling and clapping sounds. Okay? So again, musical instruments and whistling. This is why I want you guys to teach your children, don't whistle. Don't do that, because that calls upon the jinns. Clapping. We clap as women to correct a person, but we don't sit around just clapping and dancing and whistling and beating on tambourines and all of that. All that stuff calls upon the jinn. Remember, as Muslims, we call upon Allah through worship. We call upon Allah through reading the Quran, through remembering, using words of remembrance. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, they never gathered to listen or sing together. They never gathered to clap hands. They never gathered to beat drums. They didn't do that. Okay? So if the Prophet and his companions didn't do it, why are you doing it? Okay? If the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to hear the Quran, he would have one of the companions recite it. They didn't sit around beating drums. Okay? So again, guys, anything that's involving the haram is not bringing about a response from Allah, is bringing about responses from Shaitan. So this is why it's important for each and every one of us as Muslims to learn Islam from the proper people. The further away you are from the true knowledge of Islam, then the greater the share of Shaitan is in you. Music is like alcohol. It's intoxicating. Okay? This is why the devils descend on that and speak in their tongues and all of that. So stay away from music. Stay away from musical instruments, singing, chanting together, clapping hands together, and all of that, because if anything happens, it's not a miracle from Allah. If anything happens, it's nothing but a response from Shaitan. Okay? And stay away from caves. Stay away from mountains, graveyards, places of dung. Okay? Places of filth, abandoned houses. There's a lot of people. Let me mention this right quick. One of the brothers told me to share this. He said before he became Muslim, he used to be a crackhead. He said before he became Muslim, he was a crackhead. And he used to hang out in the crack houses. He said, you'd be surprised what type of miraculous crap took place in the crack house. He said he saw some of the most crazy stuff. And one time he got so scared, it scared him straight. That's when he gave crack up and converted to Islam, because he saw some crazy stuff happening. So abandoned houses, that's where the jinn live. And the crackheads, they take up residence in abandoned houses. So the jinn will do things. They'll make things fly through the air. They'll make dishes fall and doors open to try to run the crackheads out of their house. Okay? And this brother said he saw some crazy stuff. It scared him straight. He let go of that crack cocaine and converted to Islam. He said he ain't been in no crack since. So I thought I'd share his story here, his brother on Facebook. He said, you will see some crazy stuff in a crack house. Fires would start out of nowhere. And like I told him, that was the jinn trying to get y'all up out of their house, their residence. Okay, so beware of that stuff. So I'm going to stop right here for today. By the way, guys, please buy the book that I have put up on Facebook by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, because I only have about maybe 2 or 3 more sessions of this series. And then I'm going to start that new book of his. And let me show you again, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to do his whole series. It's a 3-part series, but it's so complex. You have to start with the first book, which is called Know Your Lord. You order it on Amazon. It's on Amazon. This is the paperback for $14.99. You can also get the hardback for $19.99, or you can get the ebook, which is cheaper, or you can get it in audio, because he has it in all those formats. And so this is what I'm gonna go over starting probably next week. Okay, we're gonna do the first book of his, and then we're gonna do his second book and third. And I sent Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, I let him know that I'll be teaching his books here at Sunnahfollowers. I think he's kind of happy, because his books are very complex. You can't read them on your own and think you're going to walk away with an understanding. It has to be broken down to you, just like I'm breaking everything else down to you like I'm teaching. So please get that book off of Amazon, so that way when I start that class, which will probably be the end of next week, you guys will have the book. Because it's very, very, it's Tawheed, is what I'm always teaching, Aqidah, but it's taking you to a higher level. I took you to a higher level with this session. I'm going to take you up even higher with that. It's very complex. I'm going to try to break it down and make it easy for you, like I'm doing Sheikh Atlee's books, Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. If you guys have any questions or comments, inshallah, you can go ahead and type them on the screen. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Any questions or comments?